Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Plotlines. I'm your host Connor, and today we're going to be talking about the new Ahsoka show, which is basically a continuation of Dave Filoni's storytelling from the Clone Wars to Rebels to his part on The Mandalorian, and it leads straight into the Ahsoka show, which I see as sort of an attempt at rehabilitating the mangled corpse of Star Wars after the sequel trilogy just absolutely failed. Uh, and with me to discuss it is AI. Welcome, AI.
Oh, thank you for having me on. Thanks for having me on, Connor. Yeah, it's great to be here.
What do you think? Is this them trying to rehabilitate?
Yeah, this is. I think there's one party that's concerned that this is them trying to, um, cleanse the the story of the sequels. Because of course, one of the problems you got with the Mandalorian, a lot of the Filoni projects, is that it obviously it takes place after the original trilogy and then before the sequel trilogy, so it sits in between that time period. I mean, it is a quite, I mean, it's I think it's about what 30, 40 odd years that you can mess around with, um until you get to the Force Awakens. But I mean, there's a part of me that ultimately I am aware that it it all leads back, all roads and all avenues that Filoni creates leads back to the sequel trilogy. And the problem is, I mean, it's terrible. It's just that if you forget like the story and the acting, I mean, the concept of it is just it's bland. You know, you have like this really ridiculous cartoonish villains in the First Order. You have the Resistance, and we talked about this last time on Star Wars, but um, you know, I think what's ultimately disappointed in the fans is a lot of fans, and I say fans of Star Wars, people who read the books, comics, that people who are quite nerdy and geeky about it, is that you have like books such as Heirs to the Empire. You have these stories in this world that's been built up. Even though George Lucas himself has actually said that he had no real part of it. Um, these were still signed off by the company, so I still think obviously he approved of it in some capacity. um and you had this this world that had been created. um you had these stories and legends, the legend books, comics, novels, games even. And when Disney came in and Kathleen Kennedy, I mean, she famously said that there's no source material, there's no background world building. I know, and it's a lot of fans really hit the roof with that statement. And Filoni, to his credit, he has been, I, he has been introducing legends. Ever since that statement, he was put in charge of like the creative direction of Star Wars. So a lot of projects, even if he's not involved with it, he has to. He can basically have that input um, and you know have that creative input, let's say. And I've noticed, as we'll talk about tonight, he is incorporating aspects of legends, potentially legends, and I have a few theories of where the show may go from this. But if he goes where I think he's going to go, there's going to be a lot of sweaty nerds out there who are going to have in one hell of a ride. Because oh my god, if he goes where my ultimate dream of where he goes, with this whole new universe and Thrawn, and because effectively he's already signaled, in the trailer, this is Heir to the Empire. And we know that he loves the legends. He loves Heirs to the Empire. He also likes the Old Republic, Bane, Revan. He did work really hard, as I mentioned last time, to get the Old Republic, like in Clone Wars, like references to Bane and Revan, and George did. But the problem was they both faced is that they can't manifest as Force ghosts, because the dark side, you can't manifest as Force ghosts, because all you do is it's inward looking. It's about power. There is no transcendent quality that you have with the light side, where you can learn the abilities from the Force gods. I forgot what they call it now, the Celestials, I think it is, or something like that. Like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, Yoda, and eventually Anakin. So yeah, I mean, so far I don't know. So far with the first episode, I thought the first episode was, I think the first episode was establishing to people who haven't watched Rebels, these are the characters. This is like the backstory, like a brief overview. This is Ahsoka, and this is what's happening. Um, and I think the first two episodes pretty much was like to get people accustomed to who all these characters are, in case they haven't watched Rebels. But to be honest, if you haven't watched Rebels and you're going into this, I I don't know really what you're doing, because I don't know, none of this would make any sense even.
Yeah, you're just going to be absolutely confused. I think they failed to incorporate non-rebels characters in the show. Like they could have you at least on the off right away, like in the first two episodes. So they're, I don't know what they will have in the future, and at least it seems like somebody like Mon Mothma is going to be a part of it. But even then, Mon Mothma, in my opinion, is not really a character that has any like connection with sort of people's knowledge of who are these characters, what are they doing, this is how people know they're watching Star Wars kind of thing. Mon Mothma really doesn't symbolize that. But one thing I want to point out first before we get into the like actual episodes, and I want to go sort of slowly through the episodes. Dave Filoni is a slow storyteller. He is like molasses in the way he goes through his TV shows. He's not a movie guy, so he's not going to be as concise as I think he should be at this point. There's like you only have 8 episodes. You really need to make each moment count. And I think one of the weaknesses of the show so far is that it's been very slow, and the characters, the 3 characters mainly, or maybe just 2, Hera and Ahsoka, are very stoic. Specifically, I would say even sort of the villains can come across very stoic. That's not a problem because they're villains. That's kind of the point. But I think your protagonists need to have some sort of interesting emotional aspect to them, or some characteristics that make them more interesting to watch. Because they had that in the Rebels show. Sabine was sassy in a much more interesting way, not in like a just like not just difficult to work with. And I mean, Ahsoka, you can have her be sort of wise old woman or sort of thing, because that's kind of what they're going for. But Hera was definitely like the emotion in the show.
No, definitely. And I mean, you have to remember also in Rebels, Sabine, and for people watching, I'm assuming people who are watching this probably have seen Rebels, or maybe so if there's any characters you don't know, then well, go over to Disney Plus and watch the Rebels, and then come back to the stream. No, so yeah, I mean, with Sabine at the time of Rebels, she was a teenager, I believe, and she's a Mandalorian. For people who are not aware, she actually is like ethnically. I don't know if I can use that term now with Disney.
she's
Ethnically a man.
she's culturally.
Culturally Mandal. Well, I mean, she's from a clan, so she is like
Yeah,
ethnically Mandalorian, and her clan has Sabine Wren. They
like
they are meant.
she has no family in the show, which is weird. Like she has a family in like if the sort of universe has become much more, or the galaxy has become much more, I don't know, free in the way that you would assume a New Republic would be. Why isn't she, like? I mean, she should be able to go back to Mandalore or join the Mandalorians. Like, why is she still on Lothal? Except for all the women in the show are stuck, wishing that like their sort of male counterparts were with them right now. Like, so Ahsoka's missing her master. Uh, Sabine is missing Ezra, and Hera's missing Kanan,
Kanan.
but they don't reference any of that necessarily, except for with Sabine, except for she gets friend zoned, or sorry, she gets sister zoned, which is weird in the show.
Well, I mean, Ezra did become like quite, you know, black pilled and base towards the end of season 5. You know, he transcended all like sort of urges. You know, he became
Yeah.
almost monk like. So I mean, that's based Ezra. You know, he wasn't a simp at that point. He wasn't like some teenage simp. So like a
But
Zoomer. You know, he yeah.
he's the anti-zoomer. He decided, yeah, he became basically a hermit. I mean, that's kind of what a lot of Jedi tend to do. Like, part of their story arcs tend to send them to like be alone on like whether it be some desert or some uh planet surrounded by water, or wherever Ezra is right now. He chose hanging out with Thrawn over being with Sabine.
Yeah, I mean, in my own fanfic world, and I've been trying to do this with Midjourney, you know, the AI art creation. I have like this idea that Ezra is sitting like on a desert planet, reading like Spengler, you know, optimism is moral cowardice, like over and over again.
Do you have any pictures?
No, the AI art stuff is not very good because it doesn't.
Oh,
Number one, it's Ezra. It doesn't come up. I say like young Jedi, and it just comes up with like it's like June. It's really bizarre. It can't do Star Wars. I have a theory
okay.
on that as well. I think Disney have like put something in the works to stop AI art stuff from
Well, but there
copying
is
it.
that. Have you seen that YouTube uh series on like what if like The Force Awakens was actually good or whatever?
Yeah, I've seen that. And to be fair, the Chat GPT, I think it is, isn't it, or something like that? It did like a whole script. And to be fair, I mean, I'd watch that over the current sequels because it did sound pretty cool. Um,
It was all Chat GPT. Nobody actually created it.
no, it was all what it did was Chat GPT looked at Legends content because it looks at all Star Wars content. So it took aspects of the films, but also the script, but also Legends, and it basically made. I think Ray was um like Darth Talon, right? Who was like in the Legends stuff, like Maul's apprentice, because Maul was
Hmm.
meant to be the villain in George's sequels, and so you had Snoke who was like I think he was meant to be um Bane or Pelagius or something. So it was actually meant to be like a quite an interesting combination. And you then had Ben Solo, who was still he was still quite young, but he was training as a Jedi in Luke's temple, and he actually, you know, the First Order was you know, like the like the recreation of the empire, and so it was like another second civil war.
Hmm.
um and you actually saw more politics in the chamber with Leia, and then there's like this big reveal that one of her political rivals reveals that she is the offspring of Darth Vader,
No,
and so she's
that was in the Bloodlines that we talked about.
yeah, that's right. I think that's where ChatGPT got that idea from. So she was forced to
Oh.
remove herself um from politics because of that, and Luke and she was trying to encourage Luke to set up on the Jedi Temple back on Coruscant, but
Mhm.
he refuses because he says, "Well, no, that's going back to the old ways. What caused all the problem in the first place?" Um, so there's a lot of things going on in that story, and to be honest, I would say the story is better. Finn. becomes a Jedi in
Yeah,
this
that
version.
was a good touch.
Yeah, that was a good touch. Poe is like he's like because in this one
Han's
Han,
sidekick, kind of.
yeah, well in this one Han is still in like the Republic military. He's an admiral, and so Poe is like a junior officer under him,
Mm.
and Han basically teaches him to not be so rigid, lighten up, and then they become like this um they have like this sort of like there's sort of like a sort of father son relationship, even there's not, and then there's conflict there because Ben feels that he can't relate to Han because Ben can only relate to his mother Leia because they're both Force users, and
Well, yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, George Lucas, if I'm not mistaken, said this, that Star Wars is basically about fathers and sons,
yeah, father sons, family lineage, yeah,
which
um,
that is
yeah.
kind of a problem when you go into sort of Ahsoka. It doesn't. I. It's sort of its attempt to make sort of whoever you want to be your family doesn't really work.
No, no, I mean, from what I can see, I think what he's trying to go with is basically that Sabine. I hope she's not. They don't focus on her too much.
Yeah.
Um, I'm hoping that they're using her, like her perspective in the first two episodes, to gear it towards Ezra and Thrawn and all that. But I think, yeah, the reason is like at the end of the Rebel season, of course, she was the one who I think was more close to Ezra than any of the other crew because they were similar age and everything.
Well, and Kanan died, so
And Kanan died, um, and then of course Ezra, got the space whales, the the Purgles, to as we find out, transport them to a different galaxy.
yeah, that was interesting. I thought it was just gonna be like the unknown regions, but I guess then
Same,
you
yeah,
but then you'd run into the First Order and you'd basically prevent the sequel trilogy from happening, which might actually be a good thing. I mean, I've always heard that or there's there the episode of Star Wars Rebels where they go into sort of the world between worlds or whatever.
yeah,
That I always thought like, oh, like maybe Filoni is saying I'm making an alternate timeline. Like there's a timeline where Ahsoka's killed in by Darth Vader, and then the other timeline is where she's not killed by Darth Vader, and that's the one where she survives is the timeline we're in right now, or we're watching.
yeah. So Filoni said in an interview about the world between worlds, and I think this was back in Rebels. He said that it's not a mechanism for time travel, as in it can't change the past. It can show variations, but it's like like when you're in a carnival and you go through like a wall of mirrors
Sure.
and you see yourself. It's basically like that. You see yourself, but in different variations. But the thing there is, the idea is because there is in the Star Wars universe, there isn't no such thing as, it's basically not like the atheist paradise of, oh, everything's down to luck and everything else and situation. There actually is in the Star Wars universe, there is, you know I guess you could say, divine providence, destiny,
Hmm.
things of greater power. And as I think, as it will show with Anakin, because we apparently there are flashbacks of Revenge of the Sith, him fighting Kenobi, and then Ahsoka turning up on Mustafar, and all this stuff. I think what it will show is no matter what happens, Anakin was always destined to turn to the dark side. Um, and I think that's always been confirmed by George and even Filoni, that he was always destined to turn to the dark side because that's what the prophecy. When the prophecy stated he would, just destroy the Sith, and of course, as we know, Anakin did destroy the Sith, but the Jedi, but he turned and everything else. But he was also destined to be saved and redeemed by his son. So, um, sorry, it's blowing my nose then. So I think with the World Between Worlds, it'll be interesting to see how they show that. And of course, I know in Rebels, Ezra does save Ahsoka directly through the World Between Worlds. Now, my question for Filoni is, okay, I understand what you're saying. It's not not used for time travel, but it kind of looks like Ezra you'd use it for time travel.
Yeah. How is that not time travel?
Now, there's a theory. Okay, I have a theory on this. Before he saved Ahsoka in Rebels, there was um one of the Force gods, basically the gods of Star Wars. You have the father, the son, and the daughter. And remember, the son is the dark side, the daughter is the light. And one of her symbols is like this owl. Before he grabs Ahsoka, he sees this owl in the World Between Worlds, sort of watching him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it could be the gods of Star Wars, like the daughter, made this exception, a quick exception to the rule. I don't know.
Sort of a tripping golem type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, like some sort of divine intervention. Or maybe the Armor's world. She was always destined to save Ahsoka and everything else. I don't know. But
It's
it'd be
definitely it's open to interpretation with the way it's shown in Rebels.
yeah. Um, I mean, there's also like Star Wars in Legends has always flirted with the idea of immortality. Um, you know, cheating death. But usually that's from the dark side perspective. That it's usually been like Sith lords who are impossible to kill because their hatred, their strength in the dark side is so deep rooted that it keeps them from death. And then the ironic thing is the only thing that saves them, like in Knights of the Old Republic 2, is when your character, if you can convince them to let go of their hate, and they agree to let go of their hate through arguments, they end up dying because that hate that was keeping them going is no longer there. Um,
Yeah.
so it'd be interesting to see how they go into that with the new universe stuff, though. Because we saw this that because the story fundamentally is that Ahsoka has been going from these ancient Jedi sites or any ancient Force user sites. I think she went to first was like the witches of Dathomir, like a temple to the witches of Dathomir who deal in magic, which is which is basically like the Force, but a bit different. It's like a more
More
magic.
less what's the word? Like more like controlling, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
it's more
more
consuming.
along more like Sith stuff.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's always been interesting in magic, and I know that I think I think the Dathomir storyline, Dathomir stuff was introduced under George Lucas's watch. So he was interested in the magic stuff, but
Yeah.
and this always goes back to uh our real world when it comes to magic is to adopt magic, like dark magic, even in like mythological stories, one, you have to give over something of yourself. So while you can gain this power, it always comes at a cost for you personally. This power isn't just something you can learn and willingly have. You have to actually surrender yourself to it. A bit like a Sith as well in Star Wars, you surrender yourself to power. Um, and it'd be interesting to see where they take that particular storyline because of course she's been looking, she was in the film, in the episode, she was looking for this map to find Thrawn, and the villains are also looking for this map. You have Balin, his apprentice called, what was her name, Hatter Shan or something like that, Hattie
Yeah.
Shan.
I'm not good at holding on to those new names. I don't know about you, but they're not the best names in my opinion.
No, I think they were a bit, yeah, I think they could make it so bit easier.
Yeah.
I know that Filoni does like to use biblical names for his heroes and
Yeah,
villains.
like Ezra.
Yeah, Ezra. I
Or
was going to say Balin. Is that um? All I can think of is like that the Crusader Knight of was it
Balin,
Balin of Ibrahim,
Ibelin.
Ibelin even.
Yeah, I guess. Which I was just rewatching A New Hope, and I thought it was funny when Obi-Wan says that that his father, or that that Luke's uncle was worried that he'd go off on some crusade with Obi-Wan.
Yes.
Which I didn't realize previously that he had used the word crusade.
I
I just
mean, yeah, yeah, it's yeah. There's a lot of reference because obviously we don't know what the old Republic was like or anything, but I mean, in some ways, you had the Mandal. I mean, in Legends, you had the. I think it's Legends now. I don't know if it's been canonized, but you had the Mandalorian Crusade, where the Mandalorians basically declared a crusade
Well, yeah, but that's the
against.
funny thing is like, but from what I can understand is like in the Old Republic, like the word crusade would be a bad thing because it's a reference to Mandalorians. But Obi-Wan's talking about how like Jedi would go on crusade,
Yeah, I mean,
and that was
in
never
the
followed up with.
I mean, in the Bane novels, it was the Republic, the Army of the Light were like they viewed themselves. I think they referred themselves as a crusading army. So
Hmm.
yeah, um, I think effectively it's like holy war. You know,
Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of is.
yeah. I mean, it's um,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
like
one of the
so.
things that sorry,
Oh, no,
what
so I say carry on, Karen. Yeah,
one of the weird things that first caught me off guard about the show was the weird crawl at the beginning. Why didn't they just structure it the exact same way like they would a movie? It was just off-putting. I was like, "What am I watching? Why are they like? Why is like the fonts different? Why it doesn't look? It's not structured the same way. Like it doesn't go into the center and disappear slowly. It just goes straight up and down like a
yeah,
very in a very boring way. Like this is one of the things that without George Lucas, I think that sort of Star Wars treats its audience like they're stupid a little more, like they're not looking for something creative, they're just looking for something that is, I don't know, like materialistic kind of thing, like all the audience
yeah,
is materialistic, and there's no they don't trust their audience to understand things. You know, you have to shove it all in the face, like you can't, like when Darth Vader, I thought I was watching a documentary recently about the creation of the original trilogy, and Mark Hamill was talking to George, and he was telling him like, "Oh, how are you going to make Darth Vader, like how is everybody going to know that he's the bad guy or something like that when he walks in? Like, are you going to have like a narrator telling everybody this?" And he's like, "Well, no, I'm just going to, he's going to wear all black, and there's going to be some really dark music, and he's just going to walk really aggressively and that sort of thing, like it's just going to be intimidating." It's like that doesn't exist for the most part in Star Wars these days.
no, and that's very true. And there's a book I recommend reading. It's called The Hero's Journey, and Lucas was very much inspired by this. It's basically a book. I think it's Joseph Campbell. I think it's the name of the author, and his thing is like deconstructing ancient stories uh, about how to create and formulate stories. And this goes from like all the way back to like the Bronze Age, let's say, like from like oral tradition to the Greeks to the Romans to all the way up to people like Shakespeare um, um, and those construction of tales and Norse mythology. And like for one instance, you could look at the intro of New Hope as you just mentioned. So what's obvious is the rebels, the first people you see, the rebels, they're all wearing hats, but there's these close up on their faces, and there's a good like their eyes. If you notice, their eyes are at the center of the screen, so you get the audience can see into their eyes, and of course, the eyes is the window to the soul. But then, of course, when the Imperials and Vader's to come through, you can't see any of their faces, their eyes, and everything. It's just a black void. It's just empty. And so, in like the human psyche, through all this mythology, you can tell the good guys. You can see into their souls. You can see the honesty of them. But these people, that their eyes are covered. You can't see their faces. And one thing that you find in the West, in particular, because of course in the Islamic world it's a bit not as prevalent, but in the West we are comfortable when we see people with their faces and their eyes, because
Mhm.
that is that is how we can establish communication, contact, because we can see into them, we can judge the people, we can determine, we can have an instant determination of what they're like. And so I think you're right, the order, but you see, you didn't need to explain it. It's self-evident, because when you look at Star Wars, anybody, even if they haven't seen it, and them and the people in the cinema, it was self-evident who were the bad guys and who the good guys were
Yeah,
in that scene.
exactly. And
Yeah, you did.
he trusted the audience to understand.
Yeah, exactly. And of course they did, because again, the scene played out, and it's, you could tell. Um, I think with Ahsoka, um, I mean, there are. I will. Okay, so these are the scenes I did like at the beginning. The crawl was a bit weird. I think they put like the sinister undertune music, because I think Dave wanted to say, oh, he's trying to do. I think he's trying to do like an inversion of the prequels, in the sense of,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do stuff like the prequels, but at this time it's gonna be like the bad guys. And so, like,
Yeah,
when you
it's Phantom Menace. This
esque,
whole beginning was the anti-Phantom Menace.
yeah, and I get. I mean, I did like the when Balin and his apprentice Blondie. I'm gonna call her Blondie because I can't remember her name.
Blondie. Yep, Blondie.
Blondie, Blondie turned up, and they had the hoods up, and they were introduced by the New Republic. It did remind me of the Phantom Menace, and I would say in that moment it did feel like Star Wars. And of all the TV, like the Mandalorian, Book of Boba, the Kenobi, and everything, that, and even like the Bad Batch and stuff, and all those things which I've seen bits of here and there, none of that felt like the Star Wars that I remember. But in that instance, it did feel like Star Wars, which was nice.
That was good. The captain was just such an idiot.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
he lit he didn't believe that these guys were Jedi,
which is
and
a fair,
but he
assessment
oh yeah,
in
that
some
that
ways.
makes a lot of sense. But he then proceeded to let them on board to see a prisoner that he was supposed to be, keeping out of bad hands. He thought they were he thought they were Imperial slime, but still let them on board.
Yeah, I think he wanted, because he was wondering why did they have Jedi clearance codes, and so I think he was more interested to know why they had Jedi clearance codes. Maybe he let them on because of, I think he was arrogant. He was an
Well,
arrogant officer. They were all arrogant on that ship.
well, that's
Um,
the New Republic in this. The New Republic military in this show is absolutely pathetic. It,
oh yeah, oh yeah,
I can finally understand why the First Order just utterly obliterated them so fast.
oh yeah. They
If all of their leaders were like this,
yeah, absolutely. And then like where you see Balin like just cutting down these New Republic Marines, I guess. I don't know how else you would describe them, like not
security.
sailors, but yeah, security, and the apprentice and everything. That was quite cool. And what was the other scene? Oh yeah, this was like Blondie again, when they're sent to Lothal to track down Sabine and Ahsoka, because they know that they've got like the star, well, I call it the star map, but because I'm calling it that
Sure.
anyway.
I don't know.
That's a callback to Legend, because in Knights of the Old Republic, in the first game, your character has to find the You go through like use star maps and everything. And if you see like the game and then you see the Ahsoka show, it's exactly the same like design, these star maps. So but like these wayfinders or maps, whatever I like to call them. And yeah, where you have like this callback to Phantom Menace, where the blondie's standing on this like raised hillock or what or position, and this she's got like the back to the camera, her hood's up, and you have the exact music from Phantom Menace when the droid, the sort of scout droid comes up to her, and it's exactly the same as when he was tracking down Anakin on Tatooine. That was a cool scene. Not gonna lie, I thought that was pretty good. Um, and that was all in the first episode. And of course, as we know, she found Sabine, and they fought with lightsabers. Um, and she was stabbed through the guts.
She should have died, or at
She
least
should have.
the apprentice should have at least. I would have thought she would have finished her off, but they do seemingly want I think they want these dark Jedi, as I'm calling them, to be redeemable.
Yeah. Oh, I think Balin and the apprentice will probably join Ahsoka in the end to defeat whatever villain.
Well, it's got to
Whatever
be
villain.
Thrawn, right?
I don't think so.
Really?
I'll talk about my theory later on. I think I know who the villains are going to be.
Okay.
And if it's what I think it is, I mean, my ultimate like Legends fantasy for this is like it'll be the evil clone of Luke Skywalker. But that's insane. That'd be insane.
That'd be a
That would
bit
be absolutely.
insane. Well, how did they get a clone of Luke Skywalker?
So in Legends, the hand he lost in Bespin and Cloud City when Vader cut off his.
Oh my. Okay. I see where this is going.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So
Okay.
so he yeah. So basically, in Legends, I think like agents of the like this way you have, and then you have Mara Jade. Now this is the other thing. I think Blondie, because I think Luke is going to have to. I think I'll be very surprised if Luke doesn't appear in this show. He's got to appear.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem with like Star Wars post Endor. You like, especially this early on, which I guess I don't. The timeline is so murky. It's hard to sort of grasp like when did Luke go away, but based on the books, it seemed, or based on like Bloodlines, like the book, he's definitely around. But he seems to. I just can't. I mean, the sequel trilogy is just so bad that it's basically like he accomplished nothing in like 40 years or whatever it was, or
So in the
30 years.
books, yeah, in the books, what he's doing now is he's building the Jedi Temple, and he's going out into the galaxy, but he's actually hunting down Sith artifacts.
Not
Now,
Jedi
this is how I
artifacts?
think they. Not so much. It's Sith. It's
Hmm.
it because he is looking for the ancient Sith world of Hexagol, which
Oh,
of course
right.
is what. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That
But he's
makes sense.
looking like hunting down Sith artifacts because it's not really explained too well. There was a book where him and Lando, Lando Calrissian are like teaming up together, and they look for Sith artifacts, and Anakin's Force Ghost is like telling him, "Listen, there's that uh, there's still like a dark presence out there," and it was sort of hinted in the unknown regions, but I guess it could be like another galaxy or something. And but then you go into like the Rakata, the Yuzan Vong, I think they were called as well.
Yeah.
The again legend, the baddies and legends, um, and all that. So you could, and then they got the Chiss Ascendancy, which is the Chiss is what the race that
Thrawn.
Thrawn belongs to. The Yeah, and they're called, and then you have the Gris, which is their like mortal enemies. And the Gris were made to make it. They appeared in the canon books. Thrawn. They were going to make appearance in Clone Wars apparently, but they were cut because again Filoni couldn't really figure out how to fit them into the story.
What's kind of funny is this reminds me a
So
little bit of so I was like when The Force Awakens first came out, I was kind of optimistic about Star Wars originally, and I like sort of kind of just for fun sort of wrote down like a bunch of different stories or ideas in my head about like what happened in between like the Force Awakens and Return of the Jedi. And oddly enough, I did have like a like finding an unknown civilization that becomes a problem
yeah,
without knowing about like the legend stuff. Like I didn't know about the like Yuzon Vong stuff. But
no, that's right. And I mean, I think the one that would be interesting would be the Rakata, because they were the original inhabitants of the galaxy. They were the ones who were they predate the I think they predate the Jedi and Sith. They predate the Jedi and Sith, like before the Jedi. They were Force users. They were dark side users. They're quite pivotal in the Knights of the Old Republic, but also in the Bane novels. You know, they're quite significant in that because um, with Revan and all that. And I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think the Rakata, because the Rakata were mentioned in Andor as well. You know, as in one of the episodes, one of the shopkeeper who's like the rebel, the rebel shopkeeper gives
hmm.
Andor this crystal, and he says, "Oh, this crystal was used to fight against or it was this was used against the ancient Rakata, like millions of years ago or whatever." So that would be interesting as well to see
aren't
that the Rakata, because of course
aren't they
they
really weird like
uh
aliens?
yeah, they are. They were a civilization which was sort of forced into like the outer rim, then to wild space, and then they just disappeared. And it was always assumed that they maybe went. There was one theory is that they went into the unknown regions, but with this new galaxy, they in theory they could be um it could be because this is the other thing to get to the new galaxy. You got the Purgles, which I think the way this series is going to go is they're going to say the Purgles can travel between different galaxies. Um,
Yeah.
and the way that everyone else would have to travel is through this machine, this mechanism called the Eye of Sion. Now, this is another Legends reference because Sion is a Sith Lord from Knights of the Old Republic. He is a he's basically all cut up and scarred. He's like Anakin from Mustafar. You know, he's all this scarred Sith Lord, and he can't die. And he has like this funny eye, which is like uh, I guess it's maybe like used to enhance his capabilities. And it's very interesting that it's called the Eye of Sion because my ultimate I'm thinking is Filoni is he going to bring like Revan, Bane, and all these ancient Sith lords into because I mean they're all dead, but is he going to bring like a cult, like the cult of Revan or the cult of Bane or the cult of Sion back you know into
Well,
use?
could they not be dead? Could they bring them sort of uh I mean, because there's not a lot of them, a lot of stuff about them in canon, could they basically move them to now?
I guess the problem is that with all those Sith lords, they did die in in Legends. They did die in canon because Revan is in canon. He did like pass. He is a Force ghost because he did like ultimately become. I think you could make Revan a Force ghost because ultimately he went from light to dark back to light and he was like tormented for a couple thousand years. So he could be like a Force ghost or he could be
Mhm.
something in the world between worlds, like a guide. something
Yeah.
like that. Um, it is hard to say, but the thing though is, I was thinking if there's like some Sith cult or this alt Sith civilization in this new galaxy where Thrawn and Ezra are, that could actually be what ropes in Luke, because if Luke is like tracking down remnants of the Sith or trying to find stuff of the Sith, that could what bring him in, and then suddenly you've got literally the plot to heir to the Empire. Um, and then of course if you have Luke, you have Leia, and then everything else that comes with that. And I'm not the only one that's put this together. There's been a few. I've seen a few forums online, one on Discord and stuff. I mean, there's one theory that Blondie, that apprentice one, her and Luke she might be Mara Jade.
Okay.
So
Blondie.
that would be. So I mean that's just pure theory. It's probably not true. I mean, most likely it's not true.
So basically,
But I
Blondie's
am in
Mara Jade, and the other guy's what's the other guy's name?
Balin.
Balin. He is Sabayoth or whatever.
Sabat, yeah, he
Wh-
is Sab. He comes across as Sabaoth in my view.
Which one little thing also about like sort of the like fans anti Phantom Menace kind of introduction, he sounds a little like Liam Neeson a bit, and
Yeah, he
like
does, doesn't he?
and I looked it up afterwards. I was like, like how is it how is it possible? And I was like, and I looked it up, and he's from Northern Ireland. They're both from the same. Basically, they have a similar accent.
Yeah, they're both from Ireland, and yeah, they both have um, similar accent as well, which is again interesting for his casting as well. I think
They did a good job with
um,
with this specific casting, at least. I would have liked the characters to be a little less stoic, but you know, I guess that's what they're going for. What do you think of the orange lightsabers?
um, well, so in Legends, the crystals, red crystals, were synthetic. So basically, it was all created. In canon, um, the crystals are bled. So what you do is you take a crystal, like a green or blue crystal, whatever, and if you were to go to the dark side, you would pour all your hate and fear and anger and all that sort of stuff into the crystal, and it would turn it red, and then you've got a red lightsaber, which is the lightsaber the Sith would use. Um, but the thing that was for it to, I guess, for it to be a proper Sith like red lightsaber, you have to go through the training of being a Sith. And of course, as you know, as you mentioned, these are Dark Jedi. They're not Sith. They haven't been. The and the thing that was, we haven't really seen them used any like they don't use Force lightning. They've
Hmm.
used like a few Force choke, but they're not. They don't have the powers of the Sith at
And
hand, or the dark side fully.
we've seen like Anakin before his turn use that same move.
Yeah, and of course, when we see Anakin and Mustafar, when he goes full dark side mode, he's had no training in the dark side. His eyes turn to Sith eyes. They go yellow. They have like this
Yeah.
devilish look about them. The famous Sith eyes. And Balin and Blondie, they don't even when they're doing what they're doing, their eyes don't go. They don't go to have Sith eyes. So
Well,
they're not that strong on the dark side.
didn't Dooku also not go didn't have Sith eyes?
I mean, he did in Clone Wars, but not in the films. No, he didn't. And yeah, I mean, the only two people who had Sith eyes would be, Vader, during Mustafar, Anakin slash Vader, and of course Palpatine, yeah,
Did
Sidious. So
Maul have it though? Did Maul
I'm
have
just
it?
trying to think. I
Hmm.
don't think he did. The trouble is, I think.
You don't see much of
I,
him, to be honest.
In the Phantom Menace, I think those eyes of his are his natural eyes anyway. So it's
Okay.
hard to tell because he has natural yellow eyes. So I don't. It's hard to tell if he actually is like embracing the dark side or not. I mean, for me, it it's Anakin and Palpatine who literally. I mean, they fully embrace. I mean, he's fully in the dark side. And I think what we see of Balin and Blondie in the first two episodes, because he says at the end of the second episode, it's a shame. Oh, it's a shame we will have to kill Ahsoka because he's hesitant because there's not so many Jedi left, and so he. I mean, he's not fully in the dark side. He's a bit of he's a dark Jedi. I mean, I wouldn't say he's a dark Jedi. He's more of um I don't want to say grey Jedi, but he's closest to that. I think
Well, I would
you
have
know
thought
he's
Ahsoka
not
would be
some.
more of a gray Jedi because she's
I
breaking all
guess
the rules.
yeah. I don't know because there's no one thing that you find is I don't think there's any spite in Balin or Blondie. I don't think they would like kill just for the sheer hell of it, like or just for like because remember like Palpatine when he does all this stuff in Revenge of the Sith when he's like reveals himself and he's attacking the Jedi and everything. He's like and then him and Yoda and he's laughing his head off because he's absolutely enjoying all of this because it's it's power and the dark side and he's getting to use it openly and it's like like a pressure valve just being released and so he's having a whale of a time. And um I mean even Anakin has like I mean Anakin is his response is different because of course he tears up after Mustafar. But you know I think they're trying to show Balin and the others that don't really have well Blondie she's loyal to Balin so whatever he says goes. She's not really thinking for herself.
Yeah,
Um
she's not the brightest person, I don't think.
no,
At least
she
from what
lives
we
up to the
can
title that I've given her.
is it
Um
well, so blonde I don't think I'll ever like think of her as anybody but Blondie going forward because of this conversation.
I mean, we could call her Goldilocks. She has
Uh,
like got locks as well.
that works too, but anyways, you've just cemented that sort of in my mind that we
Right.
have Blondie and Balin and Blondie. We just need two B's. That's why, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
but I think
So
I think ultimately they will turn and they will help Ahsoka and she'll bring them back to like maybe not the light but balance, sort of in the light and
I still don't.
I
They will never be able to explain to me what really balance means in Star Wars, if that makes sense. But I'm okay with that. Like I don't think well, first of all, balance is such a Eastern thing. Like it's such a like a Buddhism or that sort of thing.
Zoroastrian. It's very
Oh,
like a
Zoroastrian.
Zoroastrian. They were big on. Yeah, the Zoroastrians were big on balance because they weren't that you have like evil like, I guess like the sort of evil and good is sort of manifests itself in one, um, which of course in the Christian tradition not so much the case. But the funny thing is, of course, Zoroastrianism does have similarities in aspects of the Abrahamic religions like Judaism and Christianity, but I say Zoroastrianism is it is different in that way.
Well,
Um,
they have a good
but
god
what
and an evil god, and they're equal.
yeah, and they're equal. But I think what's important in Star Wars is even if you do evil acts, and this is where Christianity comes into it, because of course Christianity, a person can be redeemed. There is always redemption. And in Christianity, the redemption is through Christ. Um, in Star Wars, the redemption is, I guess, through uh, balance. I know that doesn't
Yeah,
make the point
exactly.
easier, but
And it's a
um,
bit odd.
um,
Well, but like a Sith can't like make it to or can't like have a force ghost, right?
No, they can't. No.
So how like it doesn't seem like the person in the middle gets to be a ghost. It seems like if you're evil, you become nothing after death. You basically it's kind of like
So yeah,
obliteration, or you get obliterated.
I so from my understanding, the Sith are ultimately they're selfish. They care about only their own personal power, and each Sith Lord, their ultimate dream is to live, to be immortal. And they believe that they can be through the dark side. They can live for a very long time. I mean, I think Palpatine he lived like to what, like 119 or something like that, and you have Revan who sort of carried on for a couple thousand years. So there are Sith Lords who can live for a very long time through the dark side, and build up their power and knowledge in that. But I guess what the way that you become a force ghost is you let go of everything. You put other you take away your selfish side and you put others first. And so you could argue, well, the reason why, I mean, so Qui-Gon, he was the one that discovered the Celestials and the powers of transcendence. Um, and I think the way that he discovered that is um, he was selfless in the sense of he, he didn't go along with the Jedi Council. He just followed his instincts. And I think that because remember the Jedi lost their way because while they were on the light, they still were, you know, they were still surrounded by darkness. And the thing there is the Jedi itself, the Jedi Order, they did sort of succumb to the dark side a bit because a lot of their actions was done by throughout fear, fear of losing power. And this is where Palpatine was right because he said that the Jedi and the Sith are quite similar, and because everyone is afraid to lose power, right? And the Jedi have power over in the Republic and society, and so Qui-Gon didn't care about that. He didn't, he when he died, he didn't have those selfish attachments, even like power, prestige, um, anything like that. And so I think that's how he was able to transcend. And then he taught Yoda, and then Yoda taught, um, and then he taught Obi-Wan, and then of course Obi-Wan taught Anakin quickly how to transcend after Return the Jedi. So um, I think it ultimately comes down to letting yourself go of worldly needs, and unlike the Sith who are incapable because they're just they're consumed by their own power.
Yeah, I mean, they don't
Does that
believe
make
they don't really have anything after death, so it doesn't so they're very much focused on maintaining what they have.
Yeah, and so that's how I'd sort of describe it. I know it's not it could probably be described in a better way, but that's
No,
how I understand it. In
it was better than what I've heard previously. So that now
um
a few things about the wait, did you what were you going to say? Sorry.
I was just going to say, I'd also mention quickly there is a mysterious other Force user in the Ahsoka show, and that's um I think it's Malik Marek. He's
Oh,
like that Inquisitor who is they got the all armored up, and I've seen theories about it like all week. It's evil. It's the clone of Luke. It's Ezra, which it can't be Ezra because Ezra was taken off to another galaxy. So
yeah,
it's not Ezra because he's not there. So we know it's not him. Then people saw Sam Witwer, the one, the voice actor for
Maul and Starkiller.
Maul, but also Starkiller. So people say, "Oh my God, it's a Starkiller." We're getting Starkiller in Ahsoka. But the thing there is, if it was Starkiller, he would wipe the floor of Ahsoka in like 5 minutes.
Well, if it was Starkiller from like the
The
game,
games.
yeah. But they would never they can't introduce somebody like that.
No, 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 no. No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. They could never introduce him in that because Starkiller would just like kill everybody.
At least not
um,
at least not the way he would be in the game. I mean, it's a game. Of course, you're gonna have like massive powers because it's basically like it's basically like your I don't know, like a fan. I mean, it's a self fantasy. You're plopping down into this world and you get to sort of do amazing things. It's like putting yourself in the story kind of thing.
yeah,
It, it's a
that's right.
Mary.
So
He's a Mary Sue, basically.
effectively, yes.
Yeah.
And um, so that Sam Whitman might be that character. He may be like another Jedi or Inquisitor who survived and is like working for Thrawn or whatever. We don't know. I think, however, whoever it is important, and it seems that it's important to Ahsoka. Now, I I think it might be Barriss Offee, who of course framed Ahsoka for the Jedi Temple bombings. I
Wait,
think it
who
might be
is
her.
but it's the guy, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, we is it a guy? We don't really. I guess it's hard to tell, isn't it, in the armor? But
But if they didn't they cast a guy to be in the armor, why would it suddenly become a woman?
I don't know. Just as a theory, I don't, I'm just sort of toying with it. The only other
Sure.
person I think it could be is like, then this would be a pretty interesting twist. Like if it's that there's that video game that came out recently, the Survivor, Jedi Survivor. What if it's like that Cal Kestis?
Yeah. Now
That
but
would be
they would totally bring in the actual actor for him, wouldn't they?
but yeah, they would. That's what I mean. Like, if there's
So yeah,
a
that could be.
reveal. I mean, that would be, that's what I was thinking, is like that would be, but the trouble is though, then it would spoil the third game, which they're meant to do. So
Yeah,
um
but maybe it won't be revealed for like couple seasons. If
yes,
if
true,
if
could be.
if,
So it could be.
if they do more Ahsoka, I guess right now it's a limited thing, and I'm not really. I worry that it's probably not going to go longer than a season.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the third episode, I think it's later on today, isn't it? To the third episode
Oh yeah, I,
release
I
date.
realized we were doing like basically it right as it basically would be coming out.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I mean, for me, it comes out 1 o'clock in the morning, so I'm not staying up for that. I'm sorry.
No, yeah,
um,
I understand.
so I think you could, what was it, like 6 o'clock your time or something, or like 5 o'clock your time
Yeah, but I'm
comes
watching it with
out.
a friend, so I'm not watching it right away.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's not really high on my to-do list necessarily. I mean, the show's definitely going to be some a little fun thing to have going on, but it's not. At least it hasn't been groundbreaking yet.
Yeah. So my other question I have for you, and I heard rumors that episode 5 of the Ahsoka show, which is like halfway, near enough halfway or just over halfway, episode 5 is going to be like quite Anakin focused. We might even see him in flashbacks, maybe even Force Ghosts. Do you think Anakin's going? Because the way they showed the last trailer, where you have Anakin's voice and everything, do you think Anakin's going to be like, not just like a cameo that comes in at the end, or like just appears? Do you think he's going to actually play an important role in this? Because I think if Dave was sensible, he would use Hayden and actually have him as like a major character or major guiding force in this show. You
if
know,
he if he has the opportunity, he should definitely take that opportunity to use him. I think he will. I'm guessing he's going to be Force Ghost because basically uh we know that Anakin became a Force Ghost. It seems
yeah.
almost illogical for them not to go that route. But yeah, so I don't really know. It'd be and it's not as weird as like doing it with like an Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan was his original actor is dead, but you replaced in the original trilogy, you replaced Hayden in as the Return of the Jedi Force Ghost of Anakin. It just seems very natural. But the one thing is, like, did you watch the Kenobi series? Because I didn't.
I did, yes.
I can't. I just can't bring myself to do it. Obi-Wan was my favorite character, and I'm pretty sure it let me know if I'm right, but I'm pretty sure it was just going to ruin a lot of that.
So what I did like, I did like a academic agent did like a thing, and we did like a back and forth of just there's a one episode where they go to basically like uh a MAGA, like Make America Great Again planet, and there's this mole called Rick, and he has like this trucker hat, and he drives like this truck, and he has like MAGA style logos of the Empire all over his truck, and
What
he's
the
like says to
heck?
he and he picks up Obi-Wan and little Leia, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I love the Empire. They bring law and order, and you got all these baddies out there trying to subvert it. And I love Palpatine. All this, it's really funny.
Wait, was that
And
was it academic agent on the on the truck? I'm just kidding.
yeah,
Is
and I mean, we were having this back and forth talk about because we just thought it was really funny to um watch this, and you could tell basically because what was funny about it is because the budget in Kenobi show, if you watch it, it was absolutely dismal. You could tell there was like no the locations and everything, the way they filmed it. You had shaky cams as well, which I absolutely hated.
yikes.
Um,
What?
and the lightsaber fighting was terrible. It was, and he had Reva as well, which I'm not going to get started with that. That was just too much of time was wasted on her. I don't care about her. It was terrible. We only watched people only watched Kenobi for two things, which was Obi-Wan and Vader. That was all. That's
Any
only people reason tuned in for that.
Well, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory, just in the name.
Oh, exactly. And yeah, there was a lot of things I didn't like about it. That you and I thought it was a really there were a few episodes which I liked. I mean, the flashback with Anakin was episode which was quite good. Um,
Well, you'll have to
the
tell me which
episode.
episodes are worth watching, because that might be the
Oh,
only.
I can tell you right now. I can tell you right now.
Okay, well, don't worry.
Ep, ep,
Don't worry about it now. We'll let's
uh,
we can talk
yeah,
after
carry
about
on.
that, because we should finish up this before we go. So I would say it sounds like what you're saying about like the orange lightsabers is that it's basically like um it's it's not full Sith, it's not fully bled, but it might be a little bit. Is that maybe a good?
Yeah, but that's what it's sort of like a halfway house sort of thing.
Yeah. Now there's this point. Do you remember when the X-wing pilots try and are ordered to like stop Sabine and then fail terribly?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make any sense. These are military forces. Like they don't care at all about actually doing what they're ordered to do. Like, and then they're like, "Oh, she's so like, basically like it's like a girl boss moment." It's just so
Yeah,
cringe.
what that was a go. Well, that was all unnecessary. And remember in this, she's like 30.
Yeah,
She's meant to be like 30. She's not like a teenager anymore.
well, she can't be
She's
like
like some
she
quirky
has to be
teen
in her
girl.
20s. She can't be 30. She has to be in her
I think
20s.
I think she's 30 in this.
Cuz like only like 5 like only like 10 years went by. She has to be like 25 or something like that.
Um, I remember reading. I thought reading somewhere that said that she was 30, but I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, she's not like a teenage girl. Like she isn't like
Yeah,
the quirky teenage
she's
girl anymore.
she's grown up and she's just become more insufferable somehow.
Yes, yeah.
I liked Hugh
Um,
Wang. Hugh Wang just obliterating the fact, like Sabine's, like, uh, telling her that she's the worst Jedi apprentice that's ever been, which is very true. She has no force abilities. It's utterly
yes,
ridiculous that she was ever
I, I,
chosen.
I, when he said that, I had a massive sigh of relief because I thought, going into the show, I thought, oh, don't make her force sensitive. Don't make her force sensitive. Oh God, please don't. And fortunately, it's like, yeah, he says you've got no force abilities. I've trained Jedi for centuries, and you have no talent. You've got
Yeah,
nothing. There's
but
not
it's
one
just
bit of that.
but then what Ahsoka and, like, Sabine do are, like, opposites. They're, like, forcing her to be an apprentice, which she's not even capable of.
Yeah, I don't understand that, and that's just I don't understand because like, well, give her like a blaster and Mandalorian gear, and
And
let's get
let her
going. I mean,
fight. Like, what would be it would be kind I mean, I'm not pro girl boss at all, I don't think either of us are, but it still makes way more sense for her to go around, shooting people up with her blasters and stuff like that. And maybe if she needs to, she pulls out the lightsaber against somebody who's not force sensitive. And even in like one of the Rebels episodes, which was one of the cooler episodes where she learns to use the dark saber, she uses her Mandalorian gear along with the lightsaber. I mean, that's somewhat interesting, but it's just nonsensical for her to pretend like she's a Jedi or try to be a Jedi, and Ahsoka just seems kind of dumb to think of her as an apprentice.
yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
and and Hera just kind of is like, "Are you gonna do it? Are you gonna do it? Are you gonna do it? Why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it?" Like she's just she has no personality, and she's just kind of repeating the same things over and over again. And I almost don't think they should have used Hera as the like person between like um I don't understand why Hera is a general. She's more like an admiral. That doesn't make much sense. She's a fighter pilot. I don't get why.
Not a ground soldier. Yeah,
Yeah, she's never been a ground
no.
soldier. So I don't understand why she's called a general. She's more of an admiral, but then again, I guess that's only Akbar or something. But the whole point is that Akbar would have been a sort of a cooler, I don't know, a cooler debriefer, or like having more people. Like the they tried to make it seem like the Star Wars universe had people in it, but it somehow still felt kind of empty. Like
Yes, the rebels. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
well, the New Republic felt empty. Like
Yeah, it does feel.
Corellia.
And I mean, I did like the opening shot of Corellia where it showed like this huge city on the planet where it was all like docking and spaceports because that is Corellia. In legends and canon, it's basically described as being like the main city on Corellia is basically just a massive dockyard where they build ships.
I thought that
Fundamentally,
was
that is
I thought
Corellia.
that was Fondor. I thought Fondor was more of like a garbage, or not garbage, but like, like ship. Like, I mean, they both make ships, but I just thought Corellia was like an actual like place. Like that's one of the weird things. Where do populations live? I never understood that in Star Wars. It seems like they never actually show you where people live.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the most populated places in Star Wars is obviously the core worlds because you got Coruscant, which is like the most populated out planet in the Star Wars universe, and then you have like all these other planets. So I think they are named, but I can't remember all of them. But the idea is basically there are all these hundreds of thousands of planets, and then you got like the mid rim where you have like certain like alien species planets, and then you have like the outer rim and wild space are basically like frontiers, like the frontier states back in the Wild West sort of era, where it's very sparsely populated. So you might have a planet where there's like 1 million people on it, and that's sparsely populated.
Well, isn't
Um,
but I thought
I mean,
Corellia is kind of pretty close to the core worlds.
yeah, it's a cool world planet. Yeah, that's right.
So like it should have like an actual civilization, not just be uh I don't know, not just be making ships. Like it should be there should be a place for ships, and then there should be a place for actual people. And I don't know. It like
I think there is, because I might be the way that they shot it, but they should have shown like the actual city, because the city itself is like it's sort of described as like a little Coruscant basically. But what they showed is when they entered the planet, they went straight to like the shipping yards. They should have shown like the wider planet itself, and also what's made Corellia famous. It has like these like really like golden beaches and stuff. So they could have shown a bit more of the planet and everything.
well, then they could have
But
also then said like Hera could have asked for help from somebody, right? There's literally a part
yeah,
where she's chasing down the dark Jedi or whatever, or people stealing stuff from Corellia, and there's literally nobody from the New Republic that could possibly help her, seemingly.
yeah. Again, I think the way that, because the thing there is, she hasn't even contacted the um she hasn't even contacted. I mean, I think in the episode later on today, she will be contacting Mon Mothma and everything, and she's going to drop like say, I think Thrawn is still out there, and here's my evidence. And I bet what's going to happen is you're going to have some New Republic managerial twit who's going to chime in and say, oh, there's no evidence to it.
That's
Oh, there's no
impossible.
evidence that it's impossible. Thrawn is gone. The Empire is dead. You're just stuck in the past. You know, Sauron has not returned. God damn it. They and I think so. That's going to be how it was going to go down. And Mon Mothma's probably going to be hesitant because it's because she's going to be like, oh, maybe there's something into this. But yeah, I mean, I think because remember I think in the Mandalorian, they sort of say that the New Republic is basically overstretched. They've got all these managerial bureaucrats, but they haven't got enough. Like it's funny, they've got all these managerial bureaucrats who most of them, as I mentioned last time, are all like ex-Empire staffers, and then you
Which,
got all these like and then you got all these like, but they haven't got enough military people to govern planets. And also, they're fighting at the moment these pirates and raider groups. So I guess sort of like the argument that could be made is there is nobody they can contact because everyone's like busy doing their own things. Um,
but there aren't like Corellia should have some sort of like senator or leader or governor or king or queen or something, somebody that like governs said planet. That
I
wouldn't
think
that wouldn't
isn't Mothma the senator from Corellia?
no, she's Chandrilla.
That's it. Frangrilli, that's right.
I know in
Um,
Legends it's Garm Bel Iblis,
oh,
which oddly enough sounds like Balin of Ibelin, but um, but yeah, so
yes.
that I mean he could be a part of it, but like he would be an interesting character to bring in as someone who could get things done. Like you need somebody who like is governing at like a local level, because the managerial bureaucrats aren't going to accomplish anything.
Mm. Well, yeah. Um, I mean, I go back to what I said earlier. Like, if Ahsoka, if it goes, because the thing there is, I'm looking back through the episodes, and when I say like the Eye of Sion, the creeping darkness, the this new galaxy, the Night Sisters, like these ancient ruins and temples. There's a lot of references to uh ancient Sith. There's just like there's one big reference to ancient Sith Lord, and I know Filoni, he wouldn't just put that in there 'cause he knows who Darth Sion is.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't just put that in there as like a, because it's not just like an Easter egg. This mechanism is named after a Sith Lord who was invincible and goes back all the way to the Old Republic. He's tried to put Old Republic characters to get them referenced in new Star Wars content. And if it's going the way I think it's going to go, Ahsoka will have to call in Luke, because there's no one else in the galaxy who's a powerful Jedi. I mean, Luke is like the Jedi. He is the guy. There's no one else they can call in.
Yeah.
Him, Leia, maybe even Han Solo and Chewie and Rex. Remember Captain Rex? He's in the
Oh yeah.
he's like still about as well, and
He's old. He's really old though.
he's an old man, and you've got like all that rebel group, and
I'd love to see
uh,
Callus because he's he's
he is rumored. Him and Zeb are meant to make an appearance in this,
good because
allegedly.
Callus is kind of sort of like he reminds me a little bit of sort of a like German resistance fighter or plotter in like you know to the mid-century Germans.
Yes, yeah, he's like
He's like
um
Stauffenberg.
yeah, Stauffenberg, sort of spy, or like Tinker Tailor sort of spy sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, he sort of reminds me of like the Soviet spies used to get, 'cause used to have all these code names, and they would like because what was his name was his he wasn't Volcrum, that was
He was he
Ahsoka's
did
code
use
name.
fulcrum.
Oh, Volcrum as well. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I remember watching Rebels. That was a huge twist. Like
that was
but
that was good.
I think that was a good one. And to be fair, I did like his character as it went on. He did seem to be like a um sort of an interesting character in that. But so I hope he appears. But yeah, I mean, I have all these theories of where they could go. I mean, it's probably not going to be the case. It's probably going to be, Ahsoka and Sabine save the day.
Ugh.
Sabine, Sabine like becomes the hero, and Anakin like pats her on the back and say, "Well done, you'd make a great Jedi."
Well
And
done. You have no abilities, and
you have no bit.
you have no aptitude, but it was all within you, and all you needed to do was stop listening to the negative men in your life,
Yeah.
and you just need to
Um.
believe in yourself.
Yeah. So he says to her, "Don't do what I was. I was such a simp for Padme, and she died of my simping."
Yeah.
um.
Don't give
Actually,
Ezra
one thing
back his lightsaber.
yes, one thing it does actually raise questions is because, of course, Ahsoka is aware of Luke, and she's aware that Luke is the offspring of Anakin. Now, I mean, will we see a scene where Luke, she meets Luke, and Luke tells her, Anakin was redeemed. There are Force ghosts now. I mean, she's going to learn about Force ghosts and everything. She knows who Vader is. I mean, they're going to have to confront that, because if Luke appears, because you can't just have that like that unresolved.
You say that, but I wouldn't put it past them. But anyways, so one last thing is I liked seeing Mr. Krabs. Governor Azai
Yes.
in real life. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean the one thing I do like about Dave is he gives the voice actors from the Rebels like first dibs to be the characters in the live action.
Well, why didn't they
Um,
do that with like almost all of them?
well, apparently Hera's one didn't want to.
Oh, she would. I mean, she
Um,
has such a great voice too. She would have been great. But
she would have been great. She didn't want the actress though. Didn't want to. I don't think the Ezra one wanted to either.
oh,
He
that's kind of sad.
I think I think that a lot of them didn't want to, and then of course the one that plays Kanan, what's his name? I
Uh,
forgot his name. He had like a rant about Star Wars, and he's like done with it. So,
wait, why is he done with it? Like
oh,
for good
because apparently
reasons or bad?
fans. No, because he's had enough of he had enough of fans bitching about the sequels, and he said fans should stop making fanfic and fan films on Star Wars and do and so he's Freddie Prinze Jr. That's it. He basically had like a big bitching moment about about the Star Wars fandom and all that. And
Interesting.
so
And so Ezra's
um
character, Ezra and Sabine's actors didn't want to come back.
I don't know about Ezra's and well, I think Ezra's one he was asked in about the casting, but he never accepted it. With Sabine's one, I don't know about that one. All I
Because
know is her Hera's one. She said in an interview she didn't want to do the live action. Um, so I know Zeb's a voice actor. He is back as Zeb.
oh, that's
He is
good.
the same guy because he was in Zeb was in the Mandalorian recent season. He had like a small cameo in the bar,
Oh, oh, really? Okay.
and he's talking to like a New Republic officer, and he goes, "Oh yeah, you better take this information about mystery things going on in wild space. You better take it to the New Republic and see what the bureaucrats have to say." And he
Should
goes,
should
"Yeah, I
I
might just do that."
should I finish watching The Mandalorian? I stopped because I got kind of bored with it. But should I finish it?
Uh, the thing though is, which season would you be on?
I'm on the third. I was like 3 or 4 episodes into the fourth or third season. Is it third? The fine whatever the most
Third
recent one.
season, yeah. The most recent one. I mean, you could watch it. I wouldn't say there's nothing in there that would tie it to Ahsoka. There's a few interesting moments, but I thought the third season was a bit lackluster, to be honest. I didn't. It didn't really do anything for me. It didn't like expand the story. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because the thing there is, we knew from the second season that when they introduced Ahsoka, when she said like to the Night Sister who also appears in who's in the Ahsoka show, um, oh, where's your master Thrawn? So we knew then that Thrawn, all the energy and direction for Star Wars is sort of on Ahsoka at the moment because it's like that is like the main thing because
Mm-hmm.
that's what will tie what they call it the Filoniverse,
Yeah,
like
the
the
Flyverse.
Marvel universe. Yeah, so everything like Luke can be tied into Anakin, the prequels, sequels, the OG, everything sort of tying in can be tied into this. All these characters, all these from across the different things can be tied into it. The thing though is, uh, I think what was his name, Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, and Baby Yoda, Grogu character, they've been so overused now. I think they have to let them just because Dave does finish their story. It's basically the last episode. He finishes the story, and they're not going to be. I mean, they're still alive, but they're not going to be in the Ahsoka show. I don't think Boba will be. I mean, it would be imagine like the last scene, like all like Force Ghost Anakin, Luke, Leia, Din, Baby Yoda, Force Ghost Yoda, that everyone just appears, and it's like one massive like battle or something. I mean that would that wouldn't happen, but
Well, if they treated it like a movie, like an actual movie, it'd be kind of cool. But I'm worried that just TV is just not enough for this stuff.
No, I don't think TV format works well for Star Wars, if I'm absolutely honest. Especially
And
like live action stuff.
the animated
Animations you
stuff,
can,
yeah.
yeah, because you can have more. There's more opportunities that can be created for like yeah, certain action, yeah, aspects of action and everything. But I think, yeah, I think you're right. I think a film, like a feature film, is what's needed. Um,
But they can't
and
do that
you
because
know,
Kathleen Kennedy would obliterate it.
oh God, yeah, and that's and I think I think Dave knows deep down that Kathleen Kennedy, like everything she touches turns to, well,
I
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
everyth- yeah,
garbage. Yeah,
garbage, yeah. So, and that's the problem that he's got, that he hasn't, because I don't think he has that total creative freedom. I mean, I have you seen the recent Indiana Jones film at all?
no, I completely said, why would I watch that?
Yeah, I've seen bits of it, because I walked out of the cinema in the end. Uh,
You
I got
you
about halfway and I was
I
just,
think you like to torture yourself. I think you need to stop torturing
I do,
yourself. This is
I
this is
love
getting
to,
brutal.
I love to, but you have to understand, I have this like really dark persona where I just love to indulge in the black pills and everything.
Um,
I, do- I love to, I'm the sort of person that would go into the desert for 40 days and nights for like just for the absolute torture and I just want to give me the black pills. I want more of them. And because I think there's the hope I get some point of clarity in all of it, even though there is nothing in there.
you're just
Um,
torturing
what's
yourself.
the
You're just torturing yourself.
you know the other thing when you stare into the void, you know, you stare into the void and there's nothing staring back. That's basically what happens, And I mean, I think like the ultimate black pill would be like going to see like the upcoming Ray movie in like San Francisco or something.
So there's a
That would
Ray
be
movie. There's a Ray movie coming.
yeah. There's a Ray movie coming.
Oh, these people are so
As you can imagine, that's
terrible.
I, I'm not going to watch it because I know just in my heart of heart it'd be a waste of money to even go
Yeah,
because I would not.
don't waste your money. Don't. But are you optimistic for this series, or is this just a black pill thing?
Um, no, I'm going to stay black pilled. I'm going to say it will end up weird and it's all going to be feminine. It's all going to be like lunar energy or whatever
Well, it is
terms
kind of.
I'm throwing out here.
It kind of already
Yeah,
is still feminine at the moment, But they're looking for two masculine characters.
yeah. So
So
accidentally base moments.
well, that's the thing is
The women are looking.
they're literally looking like they're the women on both sides are basically chasing a ball around, which is
Yeah.
the map.
Um.
I'm just saying that's and they're Sabine's basically a cat lady. They're all moping. They don't have anything to live for, and they basically recognize that. So now they need to find the men.
Yeah.
Also,
So is it
doesn't
like
Hera
is
have a child?
Yeah, no, that's another weird one. Yeah,
Yeah,
Jason Sindula. Like, where's he?
which I
Maybe he's like
already
in boarding school.
well,
He's in boarding school,
I hate that he
Connor.
has or sorry, he has green hair I mean, literally, it's weird that it's interspecies or whatever. Anyways, it's just that's weird. Uh,
Yeah,
I
it's not right. It's not
no,
right.
it's
It's not
not
right.
right. They they should not
Um,
have done that.
yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, so you've got the black pills. Do you have anything to say before we go? I think we've summed it up quite nicely. It might
Yeah,
actually be as
we've
long as the show.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I say black pills. I don't think it's going. I've set at the lowest expectation that it's just going to be like a big nothing. It's just going to be all, all these theories I stated. It's none of it's going to come true. It's just going to be a very poor story, and everyone's going to be disappointed. So I've set my standards very low. So if something good happens, I'll be pleasantly surprised. I think we should all set our standards to the lowest point, and yeah,
So what you're
that's
saying
my point.
so what you're saying is you're not really theorizing, you're just fantasizing.
Basically, yeah, that I'm at that point where in my mind, whatever happens, I might just blot it out and just say, no, in my mind, this is what happens. It's gonna be amazing.
Well, that's kind of
But
basically what we're left with is like, as I was saying, like originally when I watched The Force Awakens, I sort of came up with sort of my ideas of what the like how what led to this, but then once The Last Jedi came out, I was like, "Oh, this is all garbage and, not worth my time anymore." But yeah, so thank
yeah,
you, AI, for
yeah.
coming on to discuss this. Maybe in a couple weeks, maybe we'll check back in and see where things have landed.
I think tonight's or later. I'm saying tonight, or for me, it's tomorrow, like 1 o'clock in the morning's episode, or for you
Yeah.
later on in the day episode, like in the evening at a nighttime episode. I think because the first two episodes were obviously setting up the characters of Ahsoka, of Hera, and of Sabine, who were like the three like important characters, and Balin and people like that. I think this episode will have, because it's a short episode. It's 34 minutes, so it's quite one of the shorter ones. I think this episode is going to have to be important. If it's a filler episode, it's going to be very disappointing. But this episode will have to knock it out the park for me. This one's going to be like make it or break it. I think for the series,
You,
third episode.
but you just said you love watching things that torture you.
Well, yeah, I do, and I'm hoping it's going to, torture. I mean, I do like things get torture me. I do, but if this is going to be a good if it's going to be a good franchise, it's going to have to knock out the park for this one. If it's going to be a bad one, I think it's going to be a bad one. I think I'm going to be honest. I think the season's going to be bad. I think it's going to be very disappointing. I think it's going to be I just think it's going to be very disappointing, and it will probably lead on to other seasons, and there's going to be not a lot achieved. I don't think we're going to see Ezra in this season, to be
Oh,
absolutely honest. I don't think
yikes.
I d- I think it's I don't think we'll see I don't think we'll see Luke. I think we'll see Anakin like once, and it's just going to be all about Balin, which will be cool because he's a cool character. It's going to be Balin, and then the three ladies, and that's about it.
The three ladies. Yeah. Well, that wraps it up nicely. People can find your channel, AI Shire Tory. You have great live streams with different guests and stuff like that. So if you're interested, check out AI's channel. Links are in the description. And thank you all for watching. And God bless. Bye, everyone.